name is Amare, and you're listening to Smooth 98.1. Don't go anywhere.
Smooth Health on the Drive.
It's a global observation that helps raise people's awareness of
Insightful tips and information to live in a healthier and happier life.
how to prevent it, detect or treat it.
Smooth Health is powered by Evercare Hospital, Lekki, transforming healthcare in Nigeria.
If you didn't know, now you know.
This is Smooth Health on the Drive.
All right. Are you ready? Smooth 98.1, love music, love life. If you just joined us, you are just in time. It's time for Smooth Health. My name is Kylie Baker.
And I'm Judith Atibi. You are welcome to the show. Smooth Health on the Drive is brought to you by Evercare Hospital, Lekki, transforming healthcare in Nigeria. And of course, you can be part of the show because we're giving out vouchers today worth 10,000 naira.
That's right. You can be a part of the conversation. Call our studio lines. It's 0144899981. Or you can reach out to us on WhatsApp, 0809 4440981. We're giving vouchers to people on WhatsApp and also the first three callers as well.
So today on the show, we're going to be having a very special guest join us. Her name is Dr. Zainab Abdul Kadri.
That's
Yes,
it.
That's it. And Dr. Zainab is a consultant obstetrician and gynecologist with special interest in fetal-maternal medicine and high-risk pregnancies. Dr. Zainab core competencies include proficient management of high-risk pregnancies, basic and advanced gynecology and obstetricians, sonology, including so on and so forth. I could go on and on, but she's here today to tell us everything that concerns all that you need to know about cervical cancer. So,
That's
Doctor,
right.
you're welcome.
Thank you very much for having me. My
Thank
pleasure.
you for coming.
Great to have you here. So like we mentioned, please send us your messages, like we mentioned, to 0809 4440981. Doctor, I think let me start with the obvious question.
Oh, by the way, before we go on to the questions, you need to know that we're streaming live on
yes,
YouTube. So
yes.
go on there to our YouTube platform and watch us. We're on YouTube at www.youtube.com/smooth981.fm.
That's right. Okay, so doctor, I wanted to ask this because a lot of people will be wondering. The word is a bit of a mouthful,
Yeah,
right?
you be
It's a bit of a
feeling.
mouthful. So
It is.
I'm also curious. I'd like to know. So who is an obstetrician, gynecologist, and also what are your focus areas in your specialty?
Can I guess before she answers?
Please go ahead.
It has to do with the women's
Wow,
reproduction system.
That's very good. That's excellent.
Thank you. 10 points
Okay.
for Gryffindor. Doctor, go ahead.
Yeah, thank you very much for that very important question because I realize that some of our listeners may not really know who that category of doctor is. So, an obstetrician and gynecologist is a doctor who has been trained to proficiency in the management of women during pregnancy and childbirth and also deals with prevention, treatment, and general management of reproductive diseases and systems.
Okay, thank you very
That's-
much for
that's
that.
wonderful. So, according to the World Health Organization, in 2020, more than 500,000 women contracted cervical cancer, and about 342,000 women died as a result of this. So, what is the cervical cancer, and what are the early stage signs of the disease?
Yeah, cervical cancer is a very, very important cancer, and we can't overemphasize, we can't overstress the importance of this cancer. Yeah, cervical cancer simply means cancer of the region of the body called the cervix. The cervix is an organ just located underneath the uterus, actually the womb. Let me put it in colloquial parlance as the womb. So it's just the organ that is just supporting or just underneath the woman's womb. It actually serves as the entrance into the womb of the woman. That is the cervix. It's actually a very key, important organ in the life cycle of a woman.
Wow.
All
So
right.
cancer of that region constitutes what we call cancer of the cervix.
Okay.
So
Wow, that's quite the insight.
Yeah,
Quite the
never
insight.
thought of it that way.
Okay, so doctor, also studies also show that the cervical cancer is the second leading cause of cancer, or rather, leading cause of cancer mortality in Nigeria. So I think people will be interested to know what the primary cause of this disease is, because I mean, I know we talk about breast cancer, but then we talk about cervical cancer, and then it's a lot, right? So, what is the primary cause of cervical cancer?
All right, thank you for that important question. But before I get right to that, because I really want my listeners to understand the peculiarities of cervical cancer.
Okay.
There are some peculiarities of cervical cancer that are not present in most other cancers. Okay, so I would say that cervical cancer is one of the very merciful cancers.
The merciful ones.
Yeah,
Merciful.
in such a way, it has so many peculiarities that actually protect a woman naturally from having cervical cancer. So there are some peculiarities which we all need to know. So cervical cancer, like you were saying, and the statistics are very, very discouraging in terms of the
Yes, the
incidences.
incidences and people who die from it.
The new daily yearly new cases are about 500,000 per year. Okay, and half of these women die. Of these women die yearly, and it's interesting to know that half of these women, sorry, it's more than 85% of these women are actually they stay within this region of our country. This
Region?
yeah,
This part of the
Lagos.
world?
they
Is it
reside in
Africa?
the developing countries like ours.
Like
Okay.
ours?
More
Oh.
than 85% of these dying women globally are residing in developing countries like ours in Nigeria. So this cancer has been virtually phased out in developing countries like US and the UK and some other developing countries because they have actually recognized the peculiarities of CA cervix, and they have reeled out so many protective screening strategies and treatment of precancerous lesions, so effectively eliminating or eradicating these disorders in their countries. So because we are lacking in that regard, our women are falling victims. So they are the ones that constitute the bulk of the patients that are dying from this cancer on a yearly basis. So it comes down to the peculiarities now, why those countries have been able to phase this out of their countries. Yeah. So cervical cancer, like we said, if you look at the organ of the body that houses this cancer, this is the cervix. Cervix is actually a very accessible organ of the body. It's actually located in a very accessible point. And cervical cells naturally are cells that exfoliate themselves daily, meaning that they shed themselves on a daily basis, meaning that so those cells are actually accessible for analysis. And that's what we do when we are screening for cervical cancer. We just take samples of these exfoliated or shed cells
Shed cells.
and subject them to analysis. And then you get to know whether this is normal cells, abnormal cells, precancerous cells, that's so cells that have not become malignant but have the potential of becoming malignant in future, and then frank malignant cells. So the organ of the cervix is actually in an accessible area where you can actually assist and subject it to tests. That is one advantage. Another advantage is that, you see, in most majority of cases, in more than 98% of people that have advanced cancers, is actually caused by a particular virus called human papillomavirus. So we have identified human papillomavirus in more than 98% of women that have cervical cancer. You can almost categorically say that
It's
it's being
HPV
caused
that's
by
caused it.
HPV. But another advantage really is that HPV alone cannot cause cervical cancer. It's actually been aided by a lot of multiple risk factors, which we'll be discussing today. And that's an advantage as well.
Well,
Okay.
This is
another,
quite the insight.
another one is that it's actually a very, very slow growing tumor, very slow growing cancer. It doesn't occur. It has a very long latency period, about 10 to 30 years before a woman can have cervical cancer from the period of infection from HPV virus and occurrence of the disease. This is as long as 10 to 30 years. And this period of 10 to 30 years, we have found highly recognizable and treatable lesions called the precancerous lesions. Notably, we call them cervical intraepithelial neoplasia, CIN 1 to 3, which have been recognizable and can be treated before they eventually develop into cervical cancer. So these are the advantages that cervical cancer has over the other cancers, because when you hear cancer, it's almost like a death sentence. But cervical cancer is not like that. It is highly, highly preventable. And advanced countries have just keyed into this natural, safe guidance that the nature has actually presented us with. And they just, developed screening strategies and, effective treatment of this precancerous lesion. So it's almost no longer existing in their countries.
So that means it can really work here if we
Yes,
pay close
oh,
attention
sure.
to that.
Yeah, absolutely.
Now, talking about, you just talked about, you've said it that the cervical cancer is very prevalent here in developing countries, and of course, Nigeria is one of the developing countries in the world. But what are the risk factors of cervical cancer?
So thank you very much. Yeah, I was talking about risk factors earlier. Like I said, human papillomavirus alone cannot cause cervical cancer. It is aided by so many risk factors which we'll be discussing right now. The number one risk factor really is early coitus, which is early age of sexual onset, before the age of 18, is actually a very, very important risk factor because cervix of young ladies or teenage girls actually a lot more susceptible to this virus than older cervixes, yes.
Okay.
And viral infection at that age is actually the main cornerstone in development of this disease.
So when you say viral infection, like, do you mean yeast infection as well? Or, I mean, because, young women, we are very, and maybe Kaide may not know this, so Kaide, this is going to be
It's
new
okay.
to you. But if I went to boarding school, right, as a girls' boarding school, and by the time of 15 or even 14, and even junior age at just 3, there were young girls who were getting, it was tagged toilet infection, but it was literally yeast infection, candidiasis and the rest that was caused by the toilet that we're using or sharing at the time. And then that caused that. Can that also be part of the viral infection that you're talking about?
No, ma.
Because
So
that
human
scared me.
papilloma virus is actually a ubiquitous sexually transmissible virus.
Aha.
It's sexually transmitted, okay, but it's a very, very common virus. And in fact, it's so common that the average lifetime risk of a woman having the human papilloma virus is about 50 to 80%.
Oh.
So in a lifetime of a woman, there are chances that she would have acquired this virus over and over and over again. So it is that ubiquitous. So but the onus is this: your immunity is what plays a role on how you clear this virus.
Okay.
It's just like as common as the common cold. And once you have a flu, after some few days,
It goes away.
Yeah, it goes away. So same thing with human papilloma virus. Okay, so your immunity plays a big role in eradicating the virus. So number one risk factor is actually early age of sexual debut, before the age of 18, because those patients acquire this virus so early at a very susceptible time in their lifetime, and then it has actually caused a particular damage that may become cancerous in future.
All right. Thank you so
Other
much for that.
important risk factors include, of course, infection with human papilloma virus itself. Once you acquire the virus, you have the risk, though it's actually reduced in majority of patients, except if you have a reason for not clearing the virus on time. And this actually constitute the other risk factors we're going to be talking about. For example, immunosuppression. If for any reason your immune system is not up to par, it's not good enough, then you will not be able to clear this virus early enough. So naturally speaking, you should be able to clear this virus in matters of weeks to months. And so if you have any reason, or if your immunity is not strong enough, then you would have persistent infection. And persistent infection with this virus will ensure that you have, cells that can become abnormal and eventually develop into cancer of cervix much later in life. Another important risk factor is multiple sexual partners. I mentioned earlier that it's sexually acquired. So the more sex partners you have, the more risk of acquiring this virus. So if you have the type that has 2, 3 sexual partners, your risk is a lot higher than someone that has just one. And so that's not the whole. If you have, for example, a single sex partner, but that sexual partner has other other partners, so that means you have a partner that is a high risk partner himself. So you are at an increase of having cervical cancer because that's a high risk partner.
Oh, wow.
Okay. So other causes which we know, neither here nor there are, for example, dietary deficiencies of some very key vitamins. Vitamins that are supposed to be antioxidants. Like I said, they actually improve your immunity. So vitamins A, C, E, carotenoid, folate, all these ones boost immunity. So if you're not eating enough of all these vitamins, your immunity may not be strong enough and you may not be able to clear this virus fast enough.
If you're out there and you just joined us, you haven't missed too much, though. We're talking all about all you need to know about cervical cancer. Our very special guest is Dr. Zainab Abdul Kadri. And
we're taking notes.
We're taking notes. We are
We're
taking
taking
notes.
notes.
Ladies, call
Yes,
us up.
yes.
Let's have that conversation.
Guys, go ahead as well. Send us a WhatsApp message to 0809-444-0981. We're talking about all you need to know about cervical cancer today.
And also, we're giving out vouchers, by the way, for free
Yes.
consultation. So if you want to win those vouchers, get those numbers busy right now. 0144899981. Okay, also don't forget you can reach out to us we're streaming live, by the way, so you can
Yes.
catch a glimpse of what the studio looks like and also join in on the conversation there.
Absolutely. But we do have to take a break here. When we come back on the other side, we take more of your calls. Keep them coming up on 0144899981. Again, 0144899981. We'll take a break at this point.
This is Smooth Health on the Drive.
Global observation that helps raise people's
Smooth
awareness.
Health
Really
is
listen, really
powered
listen.
by Evercare Hospital, Lekki,
That's the funny part,
transforming
actually. I wanted to
healthcare
laugh, but I
in
just couldn't help it.
Nigeria.
Alright, go back in. Ready?
Hold on, no.
Yeah, better.
Let's do.
There's nowhere on this
Okay,
earth
okay.
that
Then
compares.
remove the, pull it down again.
Yeah, so I'll take out the intro.
Just pull the meat down to that hard mark.
Hey guys, my name is Rachel Kerr, and let me tell you about my Lagos. There's nowhere on this earth that compares. From mainland to
Just put a
island
stopper.
to the
hold on.
roadside
It's kind of
suya, there's nothing
it's
like
great.
that.
Uh-huh.
And
No,
of
leave it.
course,
Sit,
the
sit.
sweltering heat from morning till evening. Now in my Lagos, nothing compares to the
Typical wedding.
weddings. Nothing compares to our parties. But one thing I will say is there's nothing like reaching your land of Lagos. My Lagos, your Lagos.
Please, why is Domino sending me message to buy? I don't want to buy pizza.
It's probably because you're close.
I keep saying that. I don't want to buy pizza. Anyway, we're going in, right? You didn't play the meat. You didn't play
Oh
the
wow,
meat.
look at that. Oh, it's okay.
This is Smooth Health on the Drive.
It's a global observation that helps raise people's
Smooth
awareness.
Health is powered by Evercare Hospital, Lekki, transforming healthcare in Nigeria.
Completely.
Alrighty, transforming healthcare in Nigeria. That's what Evercare Hospital does. This is the Smooth Health on Smooth 98.1.
Yes, indeed. My name is Judith Atibi.
I'm Kyrie Baker.
And our guest today is Dr. Zainab Abdulkadri, and she Abdulkadri.
Kadir.
Kadri. Kadri.
There we go.
Kadri. Yes, and she's here with us. She's talking everything when it comes to all you need to know about cervical cancer today. Remember that we're streaming live on YouTube, so go onto our YouTube platform right now to watch us live inside of the studio. Go on there. It's www.youtube.com/smooth981fm. Search for our channel and make sure to subscribe and click the notification button so you can be notified each time that we go live. We're also giving out vouchers today.
That's right. So the vouchers are 10,000 naira, courtesy Evercare Hospital. And we're giving it to the first three callers or the first three texters
who sent us messages on WhatsApp.
Exactly. That said, though, doctor, let's talk. We've talked a lot about risk factors, immunity, key vitamins amongst other things, right? But for the people that just joined the show, I'd like for you to clarify: is there an age factor to having cervical cancer, and also at what age should women start being very cautious?
Okay, yeah, thank you for that very, very important question. Yeah, so generally speaking, the average age of diagnosis of this disease is about 51 years.
51.
But we know if looking at the graph of the disease onset and the way it progresses. So the disease starts generally, not just in Nigeria, globally. There's a slow rise in the late 20s, okay, giving rise to a sharp rise at around 30 years of age, and then it gets a little higher at 45 to 50 and peaks at that level where it totally goes down. So the average age of diagnosis is actually 51 years, but it means that people age 35 and younger can actually be infected with this. They can actually have this disease at that early.
Wow.
Yeah.
Oh, wow. Okay. Also, still talking about this cervical cancer, can it be prevented? You've talked about, how it's a little more predominant here in developing nations, but really though, can it be totally prevented?
Yeah, I just mentioned that it's a highly preventable disease. Very, very highly preventable, because in the developed countries, they don't even talk about cervical cancer anymore. They've virtually
Virtually moved past it.
Yes, past it. Yes, so it's highly preventable. I highlighted some peculiarities of CA cervix just now, and that's the reason why we can prevent it. So how do we prevent it generally in Nigeria? Let me bring it down to home now. So yes, so the reason why they've been able to phase it out from all these countries is because they have effective screening strategies.
Okay.
So screening is very, very important. But I'll first talk about the things we can do, which we call behavioral modifications that we can do as an individual, as a community, to reduce the risk factors which I talked about much earlier. Research as multiple sexual partners, high-risk partners, and so on. So if we modify our behaviors to reduce these risk factors I talked about. Okay, and one important risk factor I didn't remember to talk about is smoking. Smoking has been found, it's twice commoner in smokers than in non-smokers.
Oh,
yes,
wow.
Yes. So if we change our behaviors to inculcate good habits to reduce this risk, drastically it reduce the onset, the incidence of this disease. So secondly, speaking is screening. Effective screening of this disease, especially during the pre-malignant or precancerous stages, can effectively reduce the incidence of this disease. And of course, treatment of precancerous lesions, the CIN lesions I mentioned about, the CIN 1 to 3, once they are detected and treated, then carcinoma of the cervix will not happen. So for screening purpose, yeah, once a woman crosses the age of 21, if she has started sexual activity, so screening starts at the age of 21. And for low risk patients, what do I mean by low risk means patients that don't have the risk factors I just highlighted to
Okay.
you. So those that don't have the risk factor are considered low risk. So for low risk patients, their screening schedule is once in 3 years. So once in 3 years, every 3 years, until she is 65 years of age. Screening is stopped at 65 years of age. If she has had 3 negative smears in the past, then she stops screening at 65 years. So for high risk patients that have one or two risk factors that I highlighted, for those ones, screenings can be as frequent as every year, until they become low risk, and then they can be converted into the low risk cycle, and they continue that until they are 65 years if they've had 3 negative smears. So that is for screening. And what do we do in screening? Generally speaking, is just what we call it, a test called you can get it from any healthcare facility, pap smear, simple pap smear. Okay, is what we do to screen. We just take, like I mentioned, the exfoliated cells of the cervix. That is very accessible. What we assess, and then subject it to analysis to determine the kind of cells we have. So once a woman has subjected to pap smear and it is negative, it means that she has no risk for cervical cancer at that moment. If for any reason she's been detected to have precancerous lesions, then, or rather abnormal pap smear, then she can be subjected to what we call colposcopy. Colposcopy is also screening. Okay, colposcopy just simply means that you're subjecting the cervix to visualization with magnifying lens for you to detect some abnormal focus of abnormal areas on the cervix, which can now be biopsies. Little chunks of it can be taken and subjected to histology to find out the abnormal cells that are present there. So those are what you have done during. Those are the things we do during screening to ensure that patients don't have this condition later in life. Yeah.
We have messages here. You can send your WhatsApp messages to 0809 4440981. Again, 0809 4440981. You can also call us up on 01 if you have any questions for our doctor here in the studio. I have this message here from Kewe, and it goes, "Good evening. I'm Kewe. Please, can one avoid this cancer? And what if one used condom to have sex with his or her partner? Is the person still vulnerable, or what can one do to reduce the risk factor?" This is Naya. Naya goes, "Good afternoon, all. I am 48 years and I think I'm going through menopause. Night sweat, irregular period, but I spot in between period. Should I be worried?" And that's from Naya there. So 2 questions we have. You can send your messages still on 0809 4440981. Again, 0809 4440981. Doctor.
Thank you very much, Kara, for that very important question concerning the use of condoms. If it's protective against cancer of the cervix.
Yes.
Well, it is not 100% protective. The reason is you can still acquire this virus through what we call the labioscrotal contact between the labia of the woman and the scrotal skin.
Okay.
So the virus can be shared through that way too. So, but condom use is actually important to reduce
the risk factors
to 60%.
60%.
Yes, as much as 60% reduction, but it's not 100%.
Well, that's still good enough.
It doesn't confer 100% protection against the virus. So that's about the use of condoms in preventing cervical cancer. It can prevent up to 60%, but not 100%.
So Nanny also mentions that she's got night sweat, irregular period, but in spots in between period, basically. And she's asking, should she be worried?
Thank you, Naya. What you didn't mention was your age. Your age
She
is
said she's 48 years old.
48 years old. Oh, so 48 years old is actually possible you are within the perimenopausal age, really. Okay, and spotting during that period she needs to see the hospital. She needs to go to the hospital. She needs to have herself evaluated to screen for cervical cancer. I'm not saying she has it, okay, but she needs to be screened.
Well, doctor, you've talked about how this cancer can be prevented. But tell us about the preventive vaccine for cervical cancer. How and when should it be accessed?
Okay, so before, sorry, I jumped a particular question concerning the symptoms of the cancer, because once this madam talked about the spotting and needed to hear. So what are the symptoms that this patient may present with? So for the precancerous lesions, the CIN lesions, basically majority of them, they have no symptoms at all whatsoever.
Wow.
While the disease is still brewing in the background. Okay, so no symptoms. So now you may begin to have symptoms when you are crossing the cancer range. And what are the symptoms that patients can have? So patient can begin to have spotting,
Okay.
similar to what the last caller said, or what the last questioner asked, spotting. So when you're spotting, anyhow, that's not related to your menstrual cycle, you need to be worried. If you are beginning to experience foul smelling, vaginal discharge, yeah, that's also a symptom. Okay, so symptoms are bleeding per vaginum, that it could be spotting, then foul smelling vaginal discharge. And then if the disease progresses, then you may begin to see frank bleeding from the vagina. Okay, so those are early symptoms and some late symptoms. So once the cancer has spread, you may begin to see symptoms of spread. For example, cancer spreads to the pelvic region. She may begin to have pelvic pains. She may begin to have weight loss. She may begin to have low back pains. If it spreads to the liver, she will start having symptoms of liver derangement, jaundice, and all. If it spreads to the lungs, you begin to have cough, coughing out of blood,
Wow.
breathlessness, yeah. And if it spreads to the brain, she may begin to have convulsion, loss of consciousness, raised intracranial pressure. So it can basically spread to anywhere in the body. So where the organ is pressed to determine how the patient will present. So yeah, you talked about vaccines. Yes. So part of the reasons why they've been able to eradicate it in advanced countries is effective screening strategies and development of very highly effective vaccines. So worldwide, we have two different types of vaccines: the bivalent vaccines that have been patented by GSK and the quadrivalent Gardasil. So the bivalent one is readily available in Nigeria is actually Cervarix, and we have it in Nevercare. Patients have been requesting for it, we've been giving some patients. So Cervarix, what it does is just to protect you against the high risk human papilloma virus type 16 and 18, which is actually they are the ones that cause most of the cervical cancer. So once you screen once you get the vaccine to prevent against this particular infection, then you may be protected. But who are those that can benefit from this vaccine? Because not everybody. So vaccines was initially made for preschool girls that are yet to, have sexual encounters. Okay, that have not been exposed to the virus. Because for a vaccine to work is because you've not been exposed to that virus. So for patients that have not been exposed to the virus, to boost their immunity towards those viruses and protect them from having it in future. So Cervarix is bivalent, protects against human papillomavirus type 16 and 18. So it's given in 3 doses. At first contact, 3 months later, and then 6 months later. This protects you for about 10 years. After 10 years, you are eligible to have booster doses of it. So protect usually between preschool girls, secondary school girls to about 26 years of age. But I'm sure the next question will be sexually active women, can they benefit from the
vaccines.
vaccines? Well, if you have done your HPV typing and you are negative, then you can benefit from the vaccine.
Oh, wow. Well, my next question is, now you've talked about vaccines a lot, and I think it's given some people hope, but let's talk about screening, right? So, generally, you mentioned the age range where people can get it and how accessible it is. However, how often should women go for cervical cancer screening? And should it be once in 3 months, once in 5 months, once in a year, every year?
Once in 3 years if you are low risk.
Okay.
If you don't have all the risk factors we have highlighted earlier, is once in 3 years for low risk patients. Or for high risk patients, it could be 6 months to 1 year every year for their reproductive lives.
So
For
what is
high
the
risk
process? What is the process of diagnosing cervical cancer and the facilities available to treat the disease at Evercare Hospital?
Basically, what I said, simple pap smear. In Evercare, we make use of liquid-based cytology, which actually increases the detection rate of this virus. So yes, so we have simple pap smear. Okay, and if it's found to be abnormal, we will subject that cervix to colposcopic evaluation under magnification and take little chunks of it and subject it further to histology, which will tell us the actual cell type that we have. Is it normal cells? Is it precancerous cells? Or is it frank malignant cells? So that's how we treat. And how do we treat pre-malignant lesions? Because I know that may be your next question. So yeah, so if a woman, for example, she has the CIN lesions, the precancerous lesions, yes, we do treat it in Evercare. We treat it quite a lot in Evercare. So how do we treat them? So basically through electrocautery methods. We are, I don't want to go too technical, but we have the freezing technique and we have the cauterizing technique to take out the abnormal cells. Okay, and then patients will now be subjected back to regular screening to ensure that we've taken eradicated
cells
all
are
the
out.
abnormalities. Yes. So that's what we do in Evercare. We've done quite a lot of it. Okay.
Oh wow,
wow.
this is quite the insight. But you know what? For the good people of Lagos out there that would like to reach out to you and to come in for screening and also all those other things that are related to
Yeah.
cervical cancer, how can they do that?
Yes, please. They can locate us at Evercare Hospital, number 1 Admiralty Way, Obisola Drosimieti Drive, in Lekki Peninsula Scheme 1, Lekki, Lagos. Or they
Okay.
can call us on our official line 081-398-50710, or send us an email on info@evercare.ng.
All
There's a
right.
website?
Yes, www.evercare.ng.
That's at www.evercare.ng.
Yeah,
Yeah, doctor, thank you so much for coming on board.
thank you very much.
All right. That brings us to the very end of the show. Big thank you to everyone who sent their messages and also streaming us live here on YouTube. Make sure to contact Evercare for all the information that you need. Go on there to their website. It's www.evercare.ng. Call them up on 0813-985-0710. That's 0813-985-0710. Email them at info. It's info@evercare.ng. Again, info@evercare.ng. Reach out to them. Their location is quite big. It's such a beautiful building as you get into Lekki Phase 1 there. It's 1 Admiralty Way / Bisola Durosimi Eti Drive at Lekki Phase 1, Lekki, Lagos.
All right. Thank you so
All right.
much, Doctor, once again.
Thank you very much for
Look forward to
having
having you again.
Thank you so much.
Lagos, there's more to come in a few more minutes. It's going to be the Champions Tribe, so stay close.
Smooth Health on the Drive.
It's a global observation
that's
that
it,
helps
doctor. Thank
raise
you.
people's
Thank you.
awareness
Every
of cancer.
Thursday
quite
at
interesting.
5:15 p.m.
If you didn't know, now you know.
Powered by
know.
Evercare Hospital, Lekki. Transforming
Thank you so much.
healthcare
Hope you had a good
in
time.
Nigeria.
There's so much information all at the same time.